Thank you so much. I sent that song to Ken this week because, so years ago, I'm just tell you now, I love talking about forgiveness. So it's been a big part of my spiritual practice. So some years ago, I heard this song, and it's by Matthew West. He's a Christian gospel singer, and people send him letters about things that are going on in their life, and sometimes he writes a song. And so he got a letter from a woman about this. So what had happened was her young daughter, was in a car with another young girl, and their car was hit by a drunk driver, and both girls were killed. Now, this is like a terrible thing. This is the kind of thing that we think, I just could never get by this. I never could forgive them. I never can get over this. And the young man, he was like 22, who hit the car, he got 22 years in prison, 11 years for each manslaughter. And so the woman was, very prayerful, and she believed in God, and she had this great connection and all of that, and she's praying, and she gets this message that she needs to forgive this young man. And so she works on the forgiveness, and then she gets the message that not only does she need to forgive this man, but she is to go to court and talk for this young man. And as a result of her going in front of the court and talking to the judge and explaining about this whole process that she went through about forgiving, that his sentence was reduced by half to 11 years. And so the line about, setting the prisoner free, but the prisoner was her, what she realized was her feelings of hatred and unforgiveness and all of that not only locked that young man up, but had locked her up. You see, we are our own worst enemy. And the thing about forgiveness is, so I always figure this way, there's one mind. God is within us, but I believe also God is without, because God is everything. So that means God is everywhere. So if I was this perfect mind and I wanted to get a message across to the people in the universe and everything, I would want to plant something in every religion and every spiritual path. And I have to tell you folks, every single religion and any spiritual path talks about forgiveness. Forgiveness is so important that it doesn't matter who you worship, what you believe, or anything else, somewhere it talks about forgiveness. Because forgiveness is something we do for ourselves. We think we're doing it for someone else. We don't want to forgive someone because we don't want to condone what they've done. But forgiveness is not about condoning. It isn't about what that young man did was a terrible thing. She didn't say, oh, it's okay. It didn't matter that he was driving drunk and he killed 2 people. It was about the act of forgiveness. Because forgiveness is also not forgetting. It doesn't mean that we forget what happened. It means that we no longer hold this person in our minds and our hearts and act as a prisoner of this, because we are a prisoner of anything that we do not forgive. Now, forgiveness is an interesting thing because, if you ever said the Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us our trespasses as we have forgiven others. Which is saying that if I don't forgive you, I don't get forgiven. And Jesus said, if you go to the altar and offer your alms and offer your prayers to God, if you hold anything against anybody, you have to leave and forgive that person before you can go in front of your God. So don't go and pray for God to do something or whatever, or even go within to see this God within you if you are holding unforgiveness to anybody. So there's a story about Leonardo da Vinci, famous artist, and he is painting the Last Supper. And he is trying to get Jesus's face this cannot be an easy thing for someone to try and paint Jesus' face. First of all, he never saw Jesus. It's not like he had a photograph that he was copying. He had to come up with this. He had to come up with it from inside. And somebody came along, some man, and said something to Leonardo, and Leonardo got really upset. I mean, he was really angry. And the guy leaves, and Leonardo is so angry, he cannot paint. How can he paint the face of Jesus when he's holding this great unforgiveness to this man who said or did? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what someone does or says to us. It's what we do. So he's feeling all this rage and resentment, and this thought comes to him that he has to go and forgive this person. So he goes to the person and he asks for the forgiveness, and it takes him a while to get this man to accept his forgiveness. And as a result of that, he goes back and he immediately paints the face of Jesus. Because how can he picture Jesus when he has this resentment against someone else? Our resentments and our unforgiveness only hurts us. It is one of the greatest spiritual tools we have for advancing, and it holds us back. And it's so interesting that what happens is often we don't want to forgive someone, we're not willing to forgive them because we blame them. So what I do when I'm not forgiving someone, because I don't think they deserve my forgiveness, like I'm the big judge here. I know what's right and what's wrong. God has left me in charge, and I decide that this person doesn't forgive my forgiveness. Then what I do is I pray for the willingness to forgive. Now, sometimes I'm not willing to forgive. I'm just not willing to forgive. I don't know if any of you have faced this, but in my life, there are some times I have not been willing to forgive. So then I pray for the willingness to be willing to forgive. And so I pray for the willingness to be willing. I keep praying for the willingness to be willing. And eventually, then I can pray for the willingness to forgive. And eventually, I can forgive. So sometimes it's easier than others. So I had a big resentment to my father. Most of our big resentments are our parents, usually. Somebody really close to us. And I could not forgive him. I just could not forgive him. I was praying for the willingness to be willing. I was praying all this kind of stuff, and I just could not forgive him. But I kept praying, and I kept praying, and I kept praying. And then one day I was praying, and all of a sudden it was gone. I can't explain it. It was gone. And I knew I had forgiven him. Without a doubt, without any problem, I had forgiven him. Now, sometimes we have trouble forgiving ourselves. And that's a really hard thing to forgive. And we ask God for forgiveness. Now, I have this theory, and this is just me, that I don't believe we ever have to pray for God to forgive us, because God is not judging us. There is no God somewhere up in the sky going, I don't like what you did. I like what you did. I'm really thinking about you. I haven't decided yet if I like it or I don't like it. The jury is out. I'll let you know when I decide. Right. If God is love, and we always talk about this, that God is love, how could God not forgive? How could God judge? So I learned this. I had a white light spiritual experience after I got sober. And I was an atheist when I got sober. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in any of that. I thought you were all just lying through your teeth. I had a lot of reasons. I had a lot of concrete reasons why there was no God, and all of you were crazy. So I was sure there was no God. And I think I may have told you the story. Anyway, I decided to prove once and for all there was no God. I didn't expect anyone to prove to me there was a God. I was going to prove there was no God. So people had been saying to me, get on your knees and pray, get on your knees and pray. I'm like, I'm not getting on my knees and praying. First of all, I grew up Jewish, and Jewish people don't get on their knees and pray. So There were a lot of reasons. But I decided once and for all, I was going to prove there's no God. So I had to do what they told me to do to show that there was no God. So I got on my knees, and my prayer was, if there is a God out there, prove yourself to me. If you are there, kill me. Because I was at the point that I couldn't stand living. There's nothing worse than someone who's an alcoholic and has no God and no alcohol. It's a terrible place to be. And so I wanted to die. So I said, do me a favor, either kill me, and if you don't kill me, I'm going back to that meeting and I'm going to tell everybody you don't exist. Because I asked you to prove yourself to me. So if you don't prove yourself to me, it means you don't exist. And then an amazing thing happened. And what happened was, I did die. There was a part of me that died. And there was something new that I can't even, it's very hard to explain, but it was like unbelievable. And the one message that I really got, because I blamed myself for so many things, was the fact that I did not need to be forgiven. I did not need to be forgiven because there was no one judging me except myself. God was love. What I felt was love. And there was no way that that love could ever judge me. And so we have made up God in our image instead of being made up in God's image. So we have unforgiveness, we have resentment, we have envy, we have pride, we have all this stuff, and we put it on God. And I don't care where God is in your mind, if we put our stuff on God, it isn't good. It isn't good because God is love, and love can only love. So, there are no accidents. So yesterday, I'm deciding what movie to watch, and I was watching on my sister's TV, and she has Cinemax, and I happened to come across the movie Invictus, which is about Nelson Mandela becoming president, getting out of prison, and how he treated these people who had done such terrible things to him. They showed a picture of the cell he lived in for like 25, 30 years. They took away his home from his family. They did all kinds of things. And what did he do? Instead of what everyone thought he was going to do, which was take jobs away from all the white people and give it to all the black people, he tried to create a nation, a true rainbow nation. And you know how he did it? Through rugby. He had this great idea. If they could win the World Cup in rugby, that the nation would come together. And miraculously, because they were a terrible team, they were really bad, he talked to the captain, he explained to the captain how he feels about things, and that this was a way to bring the nation together. And they actually won. And here comes this nation of people who hated each other, and they're all in the street, hugging each other, and everything is great and all of that. And because he wouldn't hold the people who did the stuff to him against them. And they got the name Invictus because he read, when he was in prison, a poem. And the last two lines of the poem says, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my fate. I am the master of my soul. We are the masters of our soul. We are the captains of our fate. We decide how our life is going to be. And we cannot have a life of joy and peace and serenity and all that stuff that we say we want so badly if we have not forgiven everybody and everything, with no exceptions, including ourselves." So I invite you this week and for this moment to just close your eyes for a minute and ask yourself, is there anyone or anything that is keeping you from a true connection with the God of your understanding? God is love. If we are to be love, we must give love and be love. And we cannot do that when we refuse to forgive. So quietly say to yourself, I forgive everybody and everything, including myself, for anything I perceive they have done. It is not what the world does to us that causes us our pain. It is what we do to ourselves. So I invite you to open the prison door and let yourself be truly free. One word, forgive. And so it is. Amen.